Ships responsible for 3% of global GHGs and 18% of air pollutants overall, the changing regulatory landscape and demand from stakeholders have started to move the shipping industry towards greener infrastructure. This session aims to provide a platform to discuss key areas about how green shipping not only reduces carbon emissions, but also propels India towards a prosperous and resilient maritime future. With that, I'm going to request all of you to raise a round of applause for the members of the dais, and that sort of commemorates gently our day 2. We're still waiting for the arrival of His Excellency, Mr. Eduardo Rixi, to join us, and as soon as he joins us, we expect His Excellency to join us any moment. I'm going to request all of you to make those last moment calls and texts so that we don't have those cell phones beeping during session. At the same time, I hope you all have had a great start to the day. We have a great lineup of things coming up for you through the whole of the day. While we await His Excellency Mr. Eduardo Rixi, I request our session convener, Mr. S.K. Mehta ji, Chairman, Deen Dayal Port Authority, to take the session forward. May I request S.K. Mehta ji? Or hand over to Dr. Sanjeev Ranjan. All right. Just a gen.
I request Sanjeev Ranjan sir to make a welcome speech, please. Thank you, sir.
A very good morning to all the distinguished delegates and my esteemed speakers on the dais. Honorable Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Shri Ashwini Chaubeji, Minister for Infrastructure and Transport, Government of Italy, His Excellency Mr. Edoardo Rixi, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Ministry of Port Shipping and Waterways, I welcome all the distinguished experts and speakers on the dais and the esteemed delegates to the session on green shipping and ports. On an issue that is going to determine the future of this sector and is going to bring about a transformative change, the International Maritime Organization, in the last meeting of the Maritime Environment and Protection Committee in July 2023, has adopted a revised IMO greenhouse strategy for enhanced common ambition to reach net zero GHG emission by 2050. This is a radical increase in the ambition over what it was. And this strategy includes a commitment to ensure uptake of alternative zero and near zero GHG fuels by 2030. This reduction will have to be achieved by a basket of elements which includes technical measures like alternate fuels, economic measures like greenhouse gas emission pricing mechanism. All this will require transformative and disruptive changes in the way we do things at our ports and in the shipping sector. We in India have drawn up a roadmap for greening of our ports and shipping by way of the Maritime India Vision 2030, which was released 2 years back. And only yesterday we had the Honorable Prime Minister releasing the Amrit Kal Vision 2047, which gives elaborate strategy and initiatives that we are going to adopt to be able to go green in this sector. The Harit Sagar, Green Sagar Port guidelines was released by the Ministry in 2023 and includes a whole host of initiatives and targets which our ports are supposed to meet in terms of shore power, bunkering for green fuels, renewable power, digitization, and setting up 3 hydrogen hubs initially and then covering all our ports as hydrogen hubs. The shipping side, we have a green tug transition program already started, and one of our speakers, MD CSL, is going to talk at length about it. And we have been able to take some kind of a lead in developing the greener vessels, and we are in a position to meet the requirements of greener vessels for the world. The National Hydrogen Mission, which was launched just 4-5 months, about 7-8 months back, has an ambition of production of 4 to 5 million metric tons of green hydrogen and ammonia by 2030. And with that kind of renewable hydrogen, green hydrogen being available, there's an ambitious target for having greener vessels and retrofitting the existing ones, with some of them getting retrofitted by 2027. Which means a whole host of work to be done. While we have made a start, there's certainly a need to move faster, and the world also has to be moving in this direction to be able to decelerate the carbonization that is taking place. It is a challenge, but it's also a new opportunity which will transform the ports and shipping sector and lead to a greener logistics sector. We have an eminent panel of experts to discuss and lay out the strategy for fast tracking of decarbonization. And we would like to hear their enlightened views. I welcome you all once again, and we look forward for a very encouraging discussion. Thank you very much.
Please join me in extending a very warm welcome to our Honorable Minister of State for Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution and Environment, Forest and Climate Change Government of India, Shri Ashwini Kumar Chaubey, who has joined us virtually. Welcome, Shri Ashwini Kumar Chaubey. Ashwini Kumar Chaubey. We also have the kind presence of Honorable Deputy Minister of Infrastructure and Transport and Minister of State for Ports, Government of Italy, His Excellency Mr. Edoardo Rixi. I now request our session convener, Mr. S.K. Mehtaji, Chairman, Deen Dayal Port Authority, to kindly felicitate His Excellency Mr. Edoardo Rixi, a big round of applause when we have this special cultural moment. I now request Shri Chaubey to kindly deliver the special address. Chaubey, if you can hear us, please, we are waiting to hear what you have to share with us.
आप सबको बहुत बहुत नमस्कार। वहाँ उपस्थित ग्लोबल मैरीटाइम इंडिया समिट 2023 के ग्रीन शिपिंग और बंदरगाह सत्र में उपस्थित आप सबों को हमारा हार्दिक नमस्कार। आज नवरात्रा के शुभ अवसर पर आप सबको बहुत बहुत बधाई भी। माँ भगवती आपका कल्याण करे। मैं आज आपके बीच आने वाला था मुंबई, किंतु अपरिहार्य कारणवश अंतिम समय में मेरा आना नहीं हो पाया। इसके लिए मुझे खेद है। इस सत्र में उपस्थित हिज एक्सेलेंसी श्री एडोआर्डो रिक्सी, उपमंत्री पोर्ट मंत्रालय इटली, श्री एस.के. मेहता, अध्यक्ष दीन दयाल पोर्ट अथॉरिटी, डॉक्टर संजीव रंजन, अध्यक्ष राष्ट्रीय शिपिंग बोर्ड, श्री आर रश्मि, कार्यक्रम निदेशक पृथ्वी विज्ञान एवं जलवायु परिवर्तन टेरी, श्री भूपिंदर सिंह भल्ला, सचिव नवीन और नवीकरणीय ऊर्जा मंत्रालय, भारत सरकार, श्री राजेश कुमार सिन्हा, अतिरिक्त सचिव, पत्तन, पोत, परिवहन और जलमार्ग मंत्रालय, भारत सरकार, एवं इस कार्यक्रम में उपस्थित वरिष्ठ अधिकारी गण, सबर अतिथि एवं मीडिया के भाइयों बहनों, आज का कार्यक्रम जिस मुंबई शहर में होने जा रहा है उसने 26 नवंबर सन 2008 के दिन आतंकवाद का भीषणतम रूप देखा है। आज इजराइल और हमास का संघर्ष चरम सीमा पर, तो रूस और यूक्रेन का युद्ध को 1 वर्ष से अधिक हो गया। इस आधुनिक युग में जहां अनेक देश आणविक अस्त्रों और शस्त्रों से संपन्न है, युद्ध मानव सभ्यता के लिए एक अभिशाप से कम नहीं, बहुत बड़ा खतरा है। परंतु जब आप मुझसे पूछेंगे कि आज मानवता के लिए, सभ्यता के लिए या इस वसुधा के लिए सबसे बड़ा खतरा क्या है, तो मैं युद्ध नहीं कहूंगा, मैं कहूंगा जलवायु परिवर्तन। क्योंकि यह हमारे लिए, हमारी उन आने वाली पीढ़ी के लिए, इस ब्रह्मांड के लिए सबसे बड़ा खतरा है। इस खतरे में केवल धरती ही नहीं, इससे समुद्र भी अछूता नहीं है। प्रत्यक्ष या अप्रत्यक्ष रूप से आप हमारी बात से सहमत होते प्रतीत हो रहे हैं, इसलिए समुद्र के अकार्बनीकरण पर 3 दिनों तक आपके द्वारा जो सत्र आयोजित किए जा रहे हैं, उसमें लगभग सभी हितधारक भाग ले रहे हैं। बंदरगाहों और शिपिंग क्षेत्र पर इस प्रकार के कार्यक्रम से निर्विवाद रूप से हमारा ध्यान पर्यावरणीय स्थिरता और गवर्नेंस पर केंद्रित हो जाता है। ग्लासगो के COP26 द्वारा निर्धारित जलवायु परिवर्तन लक्ष्यों के आलोक में कार्बन तटस्थ बंदरगाह और स्वच्छ ईंधन, स्वच्छ और टिकाऊ समुद्री संचालन अब हमारे उद्योग के विकास के केंद्र बिंदु बनते जा रहे हैं। ग्रीन इनिशिएटिव या हरित पहल को अपनाकर हम न केवल पर्यावरणीय चिंताओं को दूर करने का प्रयास करते हैं, बल्कि स्वयं को नियामक आवश्यकताओं के साथ संबंध भी पाते हैं। हम ऐसे निवेश को बढ़ावा देते हैं जो पर्यावरण संरक्षण के अनुकूल होते हैं। यह सामाजिक रूप से जागरूक होने की हमारी सामूहिक दृष्टिकोण को भी दर्शाता है। भारत ने हरित बंदरगाह को विकसित करने की दिशा में एक परिवर्तनकारी यात्रा शुरू की है। इन प्रयासों में समुद्री जहाजों के लिए स्वच्छ ईंधन और हरित प्रौद्योगिकियों को अपनाना और सौर और पवन ऊर्जा जैसे नवीकरणीय ऊर्जा स्रोतों में निवेश करना, पर्यावरण के अनुकूल बुनियादी सुविधाओं का विकास और अपशिष्ट कचरा प्रबंधन और रिसाइकलिंग के लिए हमारी दृढ़ प्रतिबद्धता शामिल है। यह तो मात्र शुरुआत है। भविष्य के संचालन और स्वच्छ ऊर्जा का प्रयोग, कार्बन तटस्थ बंदरगाहों का विकास, हाइड्रोजन और अमोनिया हब की स्थापना, LNG की भंडारण सुविधा, टिकाऊ परिवहन प्रणाली के माध्यम से कार्बन उत्सर्जन में कमी और स्थानीय समुदायों के साथ सक्रिय सहभागिता शामिल है। ये योजनाएं सतत विकास के लिए हमारी प्रतिबद्धता को भी रेखांकित करता है। वर्तमान में समुद्री क्षेत्र संपूर्ण वैश्विक ग्रीन हाउस गैस GHG उत्सर्जन का लगभग 2.8% की हिस्सेदारी है। लेकिन आज भारत विश्व की 5वीं सबसे बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था है। अगले कुछ वर्षों में हम तीसरी अर्थव्यवस्था बनने वाले हैं। हमारे यशस्वी प्रधानमंत्री आदरणीय श्री नरेंद्र भाई मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में जहां मेक इन इंडिया जैसी पहल से भारत विश्व का मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हब बनने वाला है, इससे उत्पादन क्षमता में गुणात्मक वृद्धि होगी। भारत के सकल विदेशी व्यापार का 95% समुद्री मार्ग से होता है। यह भारत के कुल व्यापार का 70% है। हमारे पास 7,500 किलोमीटर से अधिक का तटीय क्षेत्र है। 12 बड़े बंदरगाह हैं, 200 छोटे बंदरगाह हैं। आगे तीव्र विस्तार भी होना है। ऐसी स्थिति में माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी द्वारा ग्लासगो में 2070 तक नेट जीरो कार्बन के लक्ष्य को प्राप्त करने के लिए हम इस क्षेत्र का अकार्बनीकरण करना अनिवार्य मानते हैं। भारत अपने बंदरगाहों को ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन हब के रूप में विकसित करके अस्थायी ऊर्जा के समाधान की दिशा में महत्वपूर्ण कदम उठा रहा है, जो कार्बन उत्सर्जन को कम करने और हरित और हाइड्रोजन आधारित अर्थव्यवस्था को बढ़ावा देने की भारत की प्रतिबद्धता को भी दर्शाता है। समुद्री ग्रीन कॉरिडोर को शून्य उत्सर्जन शिपिंग क्षमता बनाना एक दूरदर्शी दृष्टिकोण है। ये कॉरिडोर स्वच्छ ऊर्जा स्रोतों, कुशल चार्जिंग या ईंधन भरने के बुनियादी ढांचे और पर्यावरण के प्रति जागरूक बंदरगाह सुविधाओं को प्रदान करके पर्यावरण के अनुकूल जहाजों के आवागमन को सुविधाजनक बनाएंगे। जहां तक कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड CO2 के केवल तापमान ही नहीं बढ़ता, उससे तापमान के बढ़ने के साथ साथ जल के साथ जो रासायनिक क्रिया करने से उसका pH गिर जाता है। समुद्रों का pH गिरने से अम्लता बढ़ जाती है। संस्कृत में भी एक श्लोक है हमारे वेदों में, अपांग नमा सत अमा अपांग नपा समुद्रं पृथिव्यांग देवा पुरोधा सौन सल्लंग वर्षीय सित्येरंग नमाम नमः। समुद्र सभी जीवों के लिए सलिल प्राणी का स्रोत है। इससे कोरल रीफ, सेलफिश और अन्य समुद्री जीवों के लिए जीवन की संभावनाएं कम हो जाती है। इसलिए समुद्री जैव विविधता के संरक्षण और उसके संवर्धन के लिए भी समुद्री क्षेत्र के डीकार्बोनाइजेशन में तेजी लानी होगी। हमने समुद्र को बहुत बड़ा स्थान दिया है। हमारे शास्त्रों में भी कहा गया है, समुद्र वसने देवी पर्वत स्थल मंडले विष्णु पत्नी नमस्तुभ्यं पाद स्पर्शम क्षमस्वे। समुद्रे वयांसी सहस्रेषु पाण्य ये च शरीराणि सहस्रेषु जीवानि। इसका अर्थ समुद्र में स्थान स्थान पर जल के गुण बदल जाते हैं, इसलिए अनेक प्रकार के पानी कहे जा सकते हैं, जिसमें लाखों प्रकार के शरीर जीव होते हैं। समुद्र उनकी स्मृति का स्थान होता है। समुद्र को जहां हमने विष्णु पत्नी कह करके भगवान विष्णु की पत्नी के रूप में हम जानते हैं, निश्चित रूप से समुद्र उनकी स्मृति का स्थान भी होता है, समृद्धि का, सुख का, शांति का। अन्यथा इसका प्रतिकूल असर हमारी खाद्य श्रृंखला पर भी हो सकता है। आपके इस आयोजन से समुद्री निर्यात से जुड़े सभी स्टेक होल्डर्स जैसे भारत के बड़े छोटे बंदरगाह प्राधिकरण ट्रस्ट, अंतर्राष्ट्रीय बंदरगाह और समुद्री बोर्ड, घरेलू और अंतर्राष्ट्रीय, निजी और सार्वजनिक पोर्ट टर्मिनल ऑपरेटर, राज्यों के बंदरगाह एवं समुद्री बोर्ड एवं परिवहन विभाग, केंद्रीय मंत्रालयों के वरिष्ठ अधिकारीगण और नीति निर्माता, भारतीय अंतर्देशीय जलमार्ग प्राधिकरण, ड्रेजिंग कंपनियां, शिपिंग लाइनर, वेयर हाउसिंग ऑपरेटर, बैंक और वित्तीय संस्थान, NBFC, बीमा कंपनियां आदि, शोधकर्ता, इंक्यूबेटर, स्टार्टअप, अग्रणी प्रशिक्षण संस्थान, समुद्री क्षेत्र में विशेषज्ञता रखने वाली परामर्श फर्म सहित लगभग सभी हितधारक मिलकर जो गहन चिंतन, मनन एवं मंथन करेंगे, वह समुद्र मंथन के समय निकले जो 14 रत्न हमारे समुद्र मंथन में जब सुर असुर का संग्राम हुआ था और समुद्र मंथन हुआ था, और सौभाग्य है कि मैं उसी समुद्र मंथन के स्थल के बगल का रहने वाला भी हूँ, जो आज भागलपुर जिला के बांका क्षेत्र में पड़ता है, भागलपुर प्रमंडल के। हमारे 14 रत्नों में लक्ष्मी, कौस्तुभ, परिजातक, सुरा, धन्वंतरी, चंद्रमा, गाहवा, कामदुधा, सुरेश्वर, गजो, रंबादि देवान नागना, अश्व सप्तमुखो विषं हरिधनुष को मृतम चाबुंदे चामुंदे। यानी 14 रत्न में लक्ष्मी देवी, कौस्तुभ मणि, पारिजात वृक्ष, सुरा, धन्वंतरी भगवान, चंद्र भगवान, कामधेनु गाय, ऐरावत, रंभा, उच्चे श्रवा, विष, हरिधनुष, शंख और अमृत। आप जानते हैं जगत के लिए ये सभी कल्याणकारी सिद्ध हुए। उसी तरह आपकी समुद्र परिवहन पर आयोजित कार्यक्रम इस धरा के कल्याण के लिए हम होंगे, सहायक होंगे। आपका हर एक कदम, हर एक प्रयास एक बड़ी आस देकर आएगा, इसमें कहीं दो मत नहीं। मैं सभी हितधारकों को सेल्फ रेगुलेटरी आत्मानुशासन बनाते हुए अपनी एक रणनीति तय करनी होगी। परस्पर एमओयू पर हस्ताक्षर करने होंगे, जिससे सबके साथ सबके प्रयास से जलवायु परिवर्तन की समस्या से निजात हो पाया जा सकेगा। विश्व समुदाय को देश के माननीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र भाई मोदी जी द्वारा दिए गए आश्वासन को समयबद्ध सीमा में पूरा किया जा सके, ऐसा हमारा प्रयास चल रहा है। विश्व की सर्वाधिक गंभीर समस्या पर इतने बड़े आयोजन के लिए मैं पुनः एक बार इस आयोजक मंडल को बधाई देता हूं, उन्हें धन्यवाद देता हूं और आप सबको पुनः नवरात्रा की बधाई भी आप सबको सुपुर्द है। मैं बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। जय हिंद, भारत माता की जय, वंदे मातरम, नमस्कार।
Thank you, Shri Chaubeji. Your words are indeed presenting a pragmatic answer to the need of greener, safer and sustainable maritime sector. Thank you, Chaubeji. I may now invite His Excellency Mr. Eduardo Rixi to deliver the special address. Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency Mr. Eduardo Rixi.
Voilà. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the Italian government, I would like to convey my warmest regards to the Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, and the whole Indian government for hosting the Global Maritime Summit. For me, it's both a pleasure and a great honor to be here and to have the opportunity to open this session on a subject of great significance. I also thank to the panelists and the participants of this section which will provide intense and comprehensive analysis on the present and future challenges related to the decarbonization of our maritime transports. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to continue in Italian. Nonostante un calo delle attività del 2000 marittime nel 2020 a causa della pandemia, un perdurare della mancanza di crescita a causa delle attuali tensioni internazionali, si prevede che il trasporto marittimo crescerà significativamente nei prossimi decenni.
Despite a drop in shipping activity in 2020 on account of the pandemic, but also because of rising tensions in the international sphere, maritime transport is still expected to grow strongly over the coming decades.
Una transizione agevole ma efficace e quindi fondamentale per raggiungere gli obiettivi globali di sostenibilità e progredire verso la neutralità carbonica.
A smooth but effective transition is therefore required and crucial to meet global sustainable goals and move towards carbon neutrality.
Per raggiungere l'obiettivo zero emissioni dobbiamo riadattare in modo intelligente il modo tradizionale di fare business.
To achieve the net zero goal, we must adapt intelligently and fairly from the traditional way of doing business.
Dobbiamo garantire che le nuove tecnologie sostenibili abbiano la massima priorità e facciano parte delle strategie aziendali.
We need to ensure that new sustainable technologies are given high priority and form part of business strategies.
Dobbiamo lavorare con i fornitori di carburante marittimo e gli altri stakeholder al fine di aumentare la produzione, garantire la necessaria capacità di stoccaggio, sostenere lo sviluppo dell'infrastruttura necessaria all'utenza.
We need to work with maritime fuel suppliers and related ecosystem participants in order to ramp up production, ensure that there is the necessary storage capacity, and support the development of necessary infrastructure for users.
In altre parole, dobbiamo preservare la connettività marittima rendendo i combustibili alternativi sostenibili, ampiamente disponibili e a prezzi equi ed accessibili.
In other words, we need to preserve maritime connectivity for making the sustainable alternative fuels that are widely available at fair and affordable prices.
Tenuto conto dell'importanza della sua flotta e delle dimensioni della sua economia, l'Italia svolge un ruolo di primo piano nella riduzione delle emissioni di gas serra nel trasporto marittimo.
Considering the importance of its fleet and the size of its economy, Italy plays a leading role in reducing GHG emissions in maritime transport.
In linea con le normative e gli standard dell'UE e dell'IMO, l'Italia ha implementato misure per accelerare l'uso sicuro di biocarburanti, batterie, idrogeno e ammoniaca, con l'obiettivo di decarbonizzare il settore.
In line with EU and IMO regulations and standards, Italy has implemented measures to accelerate the use of biofuels, batteries, hydrogen and ammonia with the aim of decarbonizing the sector.
Inoltre, i cantieri italiani, che rappresentano un punto di riferimento tecnologico a livello europeo e mondiale, hanno sviluppato soluzioni che garantiscono risparmio energetico e riduzione di emissioni.
Moreover, Italian shipyards, which represent a technological benchmark at European and global levels, have innovated with solutions that provide energy savings and emission reductions.
Stiamo inoltre investendo in nuove infrastrutture per promuovere l'approvvigionamento energetico onshore, migliorando l'efficienza energetica dei porti italiani attraverso progetti di GNL e cold ironing.
We are also investing in new infrastructure to promote onshore power supply, improving the energy efficiency of all Italian ports through LNG and cold ironing projects.
Tuttavia, in assenza di norme comuni e di misure globali basate su regole del mercato, gli sforzi della UE per la decarbonizzazione del settore rischiano di essere poco efficaci e controproducenti, con un potenziale rischio di grave ricollocazione delle emissioni di carbonio.
Nevertheless, in the absence of common standards and global market-based measures, the efforts of the EU to decarbonize the sector will be counter-effective with a potential risk of severe carbon leakage.
Signori e signori, insieme alla decarbonizzazione l'industria marittima attraverserà cambiamenti fondamentali dovuto anche al processo di digitalizzazione, con l'obiettivo di migliorare la resilienza del sistema logistico marittimo.
Ladies and gentlemen, together with full decarbonization, the shipping industry will also go through fundamental changes due to the continued process of digitalization and the resilience of maritime activity.
Ciò implica che le autorità nazionali, il cluster marittimo e i fornitori di infrastrutture e servizi dovrebbero collaborare con l'IMO e la UE per mitigare i rischi di attacchi informatici sia in mare che in terra.
This implies that national authorities, the maritime cluster, and infrastructure and service providers should work together with the IMO to mitigate the risks of cyber attacks both at sea and ashore.
In un contesto di elevata digitalizzazione, la minaccia informatica rappresenta una vulnerabilità critica per la quale l'Italia sta compiendo sforzi a vari livelli per sostenere il settore del trasporto marittimo nell'adozione di misure adeguate volte a ridurre tali rischi.
In the high digitalization environment, the cyber threats represent a critical vulnerability for which Italy is making efforts at various levels to support the maritime transport sector in the adoption of adequate measures aimed at reducing such risks.
Signore e signori, l'Italia è una piattaforma naturale proiettata nel Mar Mediterraneo.
Ladies and gentlemen, Italy is a natural platform projected into the Mediterranean Sea.
Ancora oggi, nell'era globalizzata, l'Italia è il luogo fisico in cui convengono le principali rotte marittime mondiali e dove le economie del Nord Europa incontrano quelle dell'Indo-Pacifico.
Even today, in the era of globalization, Italy is the physical space where the world's shipping routes converge and where the economies of Northern Europe meet those of the Indo-Pacific.
Per questo sosteniamo costantemente l'industria del trasporto marittimo, per mantenere gli standard di sicurezza ambientali molto più elevati, sostenere la realizzazione di catene di trasporto marittimo, promuovere la resilienza della geologistica marittima e sostenere la continuità operativa in ogni circostanza, garantendo la sicurezza dei traffici marittimi.
This is why we constantly support the maritime transport industry to keep much higher safety standards, to support the achievement of a sustainable maritime transport chain, to promote the incidence of the resilience of maritime logistics, and to support the business continuity under all circumstances, making sure that maritime traffic is safe.
Dear Chairman, honorable ministers, distinguished guests, the Global Maritime Conference confirmed the commitment and determination of both public and private sector to exploring the maritime future of its global potential. I am feeling now truly honored to have been provided in this opportunity to address you today. I wish you all the best for a successful and productive conference. Thank you very much for your attention and have a good wind. It's a normal, you know, come si dice, augurio.
Good luck.
Good luck for all the business
Best
and the
wishes.
future of our connection between IMEC corridor.
Thank you.
Thank you, His Excellency, Mr. Eduardo Rixi. Whoa. Thank you, His Excellency. A big round of applause for His Excellency, Mr. Eduardo Rixi, for that elaborate sharing. I would like to take this opportunity to highlight the crucial role public-private partnerships participation play in tackling global challenges. We have some prestigious memorandums of understanding to be exchanged in our session today. And we start with Cochin Shipyard Limited MOU with Deen Dayal Port. May I request the two parties to come forward on the dais and do the honors. CSL MOU with Deen Dayal Port. May I request the representatives of CSL and Deen Dayal Port to do the honors. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Thank you. Next, I'm going to request representatives of CSL and JNPA to commemorate the Memorandum of Understanding between CSL and JNPA. CSL MOU with JNPA. Thank you. CSL MOU with Paradip Port. May I request a representative of Paradip Port? CSL MOU with Paradip Port. Next is CSL MOU with VOCPA. May I request a representative of VOCPA come on dais. Thank you. For the next round of MOU exchange, I invite the officials of Deen Dayal Port Authority with Torrent Power. DPA with Torrent Power. Next, we have DPA with NTPC Green Energy. May I request representative of NTPC Green Energy? Thank you. DPA with Grenco Zero. Grenco Zero C Private Limited and DPA. Thank you very much. And for the last, DPA and Ocean Sparkle Limited. Thank you very much, gentlemen. May I now invite our session moderator, Mr. R.R. Rashmi, Distinguished Fellow and Program Director, Earth Science and Climate Change Study, to set the context for today's session and let the ball for the session deliberations rolling.
Thank you very much, and once again a very good morning to all of you and the distinguished panelists and the honorable representatives of various governments and the regulatory agencies. You know, in this session we will be talking about the decarbonization of the maritime sector and the various steps and the stages involved in this process. globally, uh, the international community has agreed on a net zero goal for the world economy by mid-century. And there are several countries which have taken different kinds of goals. By 2050, by 2045, some countries have taken by 2060. In our own country, the Honorable Prime Minister has announced a net zero goal for the Indian economy by 2070. Now, the net zero achievement of the net zero economy includes the processes for decarbonization. And shipping and the port sector constitutes a very, very important sector. Today, the world shipping sector contributes almost 2.5 to 3% of the global emissions. And as the world economy grows, particularly in countries like India, which is the 5th largest economy today in the world, and hopefully in a matter of few years will become the 3rd largest economy, a large part of the gross domestic product of the country will come from the operations of the port and the shipping sector. And these will contribute to the GDP as well as to the emissions in general. So we will have to take immediate and long-term, medium-term as well as short-term steps to move towards this process of decarbonization across all economic sectors. And the port and the shipping sector, which we are going to discuss today, happens to be one of the most critical sectors. So in this session, we will look at some of these issues and facilitate the discussion on developments about decarbonization of the shipping and the port sector, both at the global and the domestic level. The objective is to learn about the global trends and gather insights about how we can adopt the best practices for achieving carbon neutrality or reducing pollution, innovate green technologies and fuels in this sector. Now, international collaboration is really crucial to fast track the process of decarbonization, because different countries and different players are at different levels of preparedness. It is therefore important to explore how the maritime industry can collaborate in effectively implementing these green and smart solutions. Now, smart shipping is about integrating the advanced technologies and sustainable practices in maritime operations. There are one of the key technologies for this purpose is of course the green hydrogen chain, and the availability of LNG, methanol and similar other alternative fuels is going to be discussed. There are also concepts like the concepts of green maritime green corridors, green maritime clusters, which are being talked about to create an appropriate infrastructure to help the maritime sector move towards decarbonization. So with this view, the deliberations in this session will be anchored around 7 presentations. We have the benefit of the presence of very senior officials from the Government of India and the regulatory agencies and development agencies from various countries like Norway, Denmark, Netherlands, and of course the global agency like IMO. So first we will hear from the Government of India representatives about the key initiatives and the future plans of the Government of India towards establishment of green ports. We will then have a perspective on the energy efficiency and the development of capacity for accelerating decarbonization of the shipping sector, and we will learn from the experiences of Norway in this regard. The issues of creation of green hydrogen hubs in some of the key major ports of India like Deen Dayal Port at Kandla, VOC Port at Tuticorin and Paradip ports will be presented to you after this, followed by the discussion on maritime green corridors and the green maritime clusters. We will then discuss the issue of adoption of green technologies and alternative fuels for a long-term decarbonization vision, and we will end with a presentation on the global trends and initiatives in the creation of green hydrogen chain as pathway for smart shipping at the global level. We hope that in this session, by delving into these issues, we will gather insights on the kind of investment opportunities that India's maritime landscape offers for the adoption of smarter ways of shipping and port operations. Through strategic investments in alternative fuel infrastructure, technological innovation and green port development, the sector in India can position itself at the forefront of this evolving technologies. Let me welcome you once again and invite the panelists for their benefit, and all of you. I would request the panelists to suggest that they limit their interventions to about 6 minutes each, and if they have any slides, they are welcome to do so in as brief manner as possible, and then we will be ending the discussion with some of the questions which you may like to pose. So you are welcome to raise any questions and then address it to the panelists. So let me end with this and once again invite the panelists for a discussion. Let me first invite Mr. Rajesh Kumar Sinha, the Additional Secretary, Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Government of India, to give us a broad overview of the key initiatives and future plans of the Government of India about the green ports.
Good morning, everyone. My presentation will be short and factual. We'll start with the presentation. This presentation is about green ports, the key initiatives that have been taken, and the future plans. If you kindly recall, yesterday morning at the inaugural session, our Honorable Prime Minister had also launched the Amrit Kal Vision document, which is a vision for 2047. So the targets which are set in that document are also finding place in this presentation. Whenever we talk about 2047, it is coming from that document. So this is the level of adoption of renewable energy at the ports. The ports that are owned by Government of India, their energy requirement of that port, 13% of that requirement is currently met by renewable energy. And the target is that we take this percentage to 60% in 2030 and 90% by 2047. So the 90% of the energy required by ports for their internal purposes will be generated through renewable sources. This is the sum and substance of this slide. Presently, there are 3 ports which are 100% dependent on the renewable sources. Another step that the ports have taken for the cleaner technologies is to introduce electric cranes, vehicles, and their fleet of vehicles that the ports have. Currently, the percentage is 10% of the vehicles that they operate at the ports are based on RE. There are 5 ports which are a little ahead. They are about 30%, and they also have the charging stations for those electric vehicles. Now the target that is assigned under the vision document is that by 2030, 50% of the port vehicles and the traffic that is there should be based on renewable energy sources. And as per the Amrit Kal document, by 2047, this percentage should go up to 90%. We will hear more about this by another presenter here in the panel. It's just a snapshot of green hydrogen hubs that as per policy this has been decided to set up 3 ports as green hydrogen hubs. They'll mainly targeting export of green hydrogen in the derivative form. The current status is the 3 ports are Tuticorin, VOCPA, Deen Dayal port in Kandla and Paradip port in Odisha. These ports have land available. Many of the ports have already allocated land for setting up the green hubs. And if you look at the aggregate capacity of green hydrogen that can be produced from these sources would be roughly in the range of about 12 MMTPA. This is based on the data. Apart from this, there are other ports also which are developing this facility, and they are also in the process of allocating land. Another step that the ports have taken is for shore-to-ship power supply. The ports are developing infrastructure with a timeline. There is a phase given. In phase 1, the ports have to ensure that all crafts which the ports have or they use should have shore-to-ship supply, which all ports have achieved by 2023. They were supposed to achieve by 2023. They have achieved this. Phase 2 is that the vessels, the crafts of Coast Guard, Indian Navy and small coastal vessels, they should be supplied shore-to-ship power by 2024. Many of the ports have achieved this, and the rest who have not done it will be achieving this by 2024. Phase 3 is, which is by 2025, is that all EXIM vessels which call on that port should be supplied shore-to-ship power. This will be achieved by 2025. This is the commitment given by all the ports. This is about offshore wind energy power, the 500 gigawatt non-fossil fuel capacity in India. This is the overall target for India. Of that target, 30 gigawatt is offshore wind by 2030. This is part of the sub-target. Mainly this is in Tuticorin port. They are providing infrastructure to set up the wind energy projects at Tamil Nadu coast. And they are developing that offshore wind terminal at a cost of about 450 crore rupees. There are some other initiatives which is if you look at the second bullet there, which is about green truck transition program, there will be more discussion on this in the session today. The target given is by 2024, 3 major ports should deploy 2 green trucks or hybrid trucks each. So there will be 6 green or hybrid trucks there by 2024. And we have just seen the MOUs have been signed on this line. And by 2030, all major ports should have 50% of their trucks should be green or hybrid trucks. The third sub-bullet is an ambition that I personally have, and many of the panelists share this view also, that India should become a global hub for green trucks and small vessels. We are working in that direction, and this transition program is actually a step in that direction. Another point which is initiative taken by some of the ports is to have their green area covered, the land mass which they have, the land area that they have should be covered by green cover. So 33% of the land should be covered by green, basically a tree plantation. And this target is by 2047. Many of the ports have already covered 33%, but largely they have to cover by 2047. Then water usage optimization is another initiative that all ports have taken. This is actually about more economical use, recycling and reuse of water. Another point which the ports have taken initiative is by energy efficiency measures, that per ton of cargo that they handle, there should be a reduction of 20% of energy consumption by 2030 with a baseline of current baseline, which is 2023 baseline. This study of current baseline is underway, and based on that they have to achieve the target of 20% reduction by 2030. The first bullet was about setting up LNG bunkering. All major ports will develop one bunkering station, LNG bunkering station at each port. So these are some of the initiatives that the ports have taken. So thank you very much for this.
Next speaker let me invite Mr. Andreas Norset, the Director General of the Danish Maritime Authority, who will speak to us on the key to accelerating shipping decarbonization from his perspective.
Thank you indeed, and good morning to everyone. And first of all, big thanks to the Government of India, in particular Ministry of Port Shipping and Waterways, for bringing the world together and setting this, I would say, very important item on the agenda and facilitate that we can all meet and discuss. I will also try to be brief. I have basically two very simple messages. One is that we all need to get started to accelerate decarbonization of shipping. And the other thing is that we need to delve into energy efficiency, and in particular, to do that, we need to get seafarers' competences into play. So, looking at the big challenge, this is a graph showing where we're heading. That's a red graph, the red line showing the path that we're actually on. The black one above it shows that if we stop doing anything, that's the path we're going to follow. And the green path shows the path that we want to achieve, and we want to become climate neutral around 2050. And the primary message here is that time is short. Even though the 2050 is around 25 years ahead, then 25 years to make a complete transformation of the shipping industry's fuel structure is really not a very long time. But there are other things you can think about when you look at this. First of all, you could imagine that if we could all use, let's say, 10% less energy, just 10% less energy, then immediately the challenge would be just a little bit smaller. And if everyone could become 20% more energy efficient, then again the task we have ahead of us would also become smaller. So there's no doubt that everybody needs to start thinking about energy efficiency, because also in the future, new fuels are going to be much more expensive, and we're also going to use much more fuel than we use today. There's a factor 2 to 1 probably. So using less fuel will in all cases be a good idea. The other thing is that if you look at this and look at the challenge of making shipping carbon neutral, that is a task that everybody needs to get on board. And this brings us to the question of a just and equitable transition, where we say we are going to leave no one behind. There are many reasons for this, but there is one particular reason that we should not forget, and that is we are not going to get decarbonized if we do not get everybody on board. Big, small, every country, every seafarer, every ship has to join into this agenda. So leaving no one behind is not just a matter of helping those who have the least, but it's also a matter of ensuring that we actually do become carbon neutral. So then comes the question, how do we get started on this? And my proposal, and I think this is really important, is that we could all start to focus much more on energy efficiency and start with small-scale, very concrete projects. So take any ship, ferry, container ship, bulk carrier, tanker, fishing boat, whatever, and say, let's make this ship 10% more energy efficient or 20% more energy efficient. If we do that all over the world, then we have all getting started, and we will then accelerate the decarbonization in a very tangible, concrete way. Everybody have a role to play here, and we should all keep in mind that the greenest fuel we can use is actually the fuels that we do not use. And it's, by the way, also the cheapest fuel. So there's a win-win situation. It's a no-regret move to start on the agenda about energy efficiency. And again, I would emphasize that becoming carbon neutral in 2050 cannot be done if we do not all chip into the agenda of energy efficiency and we ensure that everybody gets on board. Everybody have a role to play, regulators, owners, but I will in particular emphasize the seafarers. We hear a lot in the debate that we consider it as a specific, difficult challenge to ensure that the seafarers can handle new fuels. We should turn it around and start looking at the seafarers as part of the solution. So the seafarers are not a challenge, they're actually an opportunity. And I'm looking in the back here, there are a lot of cadets and officers sitting, and I will just say to you, you play a key role in greening of shipping. Because the seafarers, they have the key to ensuring that any ship will be handled energy efficient. And this is something that we should start on. It's a low-hanging fruit, it's a no-regret move, and it's there for us to pick up. And the seafarers hold the key here, together with the rest of us. And this is basically my message, getting everybody on board, working with energy efficiency, and then also, of course, continue the efforts on new fuels, and that will bring us to the target of a green and decarbonized future. And with this, I hope for maybe a good discussion, and I say thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Norset. Let me now invite Mr. S.K. Mehta, the Chairman of the Deen Dayal Port Authority, to speak to us about the initiatives for green hydrogen hubs in India at various ports.
Good afternoon, everybody. National Green Hydrogen Mission is the vision of Honorable Prime Minister to make India a global hub for green hydrogen production and export in the Amrit Kal. The objective is to make India as a global hub for production, usage and export of green hydrogen and its derivatives. The initial outlay which has been envisaged in the green hydrogen mission is about 20,000 crore rupees. The National Green Hydrogen Mission envisages green hydrogen production capacity by 2030 to 5 MMTPA. The renewable energy capacity should be 125 gigahertz. We would be attracting an investment of over 8 lakh crore rupees by 2030. It would substantially reduce the CO2 carbon emission also, and would generate substantial amount of employment also. The mission has been formulated in 2 phases. Phase 1 is from 22-23 to 25-26, and phase 2 is from 26-27 to 29-30. The ministry has identified 3 ports, as already have been told. 2 ports on the eastern coast, that is Paradip and VO Chidambarnar, Tuticorin, and on the western coast, Kandla port has been identified to be developed as green hydrogen hubs. At Paradip Port is at an advanced stage, one must say. They are in the process, government of Odisha is in the process of allotment of land. They are ready to, for the developers to have 3.2 MMTPA of green ammonia and methanol. The companies which have shown interest are Renew Fuels Private Limited, ES Solgen Hybrid Private Limited and L&T Energy Limited. In totality, they are going for 3.2 MMTPA of green ammonia at Paradip Port. Paradip Port is also proposing some common infrastructure facilities like dedicated berth, 40 acres of land, concrete gallery of 4 kilometers and some ancillary measures also like firefighting system, vapor recovery system, electrical network and other ancillary things. In Deen Dayal Port has received about 13 number of proposals from the developers. They have proposed a capacity of about 10 MMTPA of green ammonia, that refers to about 2 MMTPA of green hydrogen, and the investment which they are proposing is about 1.4 lakh crores. Some of the MOUs have been signed here. The MOUs were mainly the DPS signed were for green ammonia and green hydrogen only. The companies which are interested are Semcorp, Osicor, L&T, NTPC, Torrent, Statecraft, Hygenco. All these companies are interested. They want to invest at Kandla for green hydrogen production. In general, land requirement for the plant is about 3,511 acres, which has been denoted by the developers. Energy requirement would be about 40 gigawatts, electrolyzer capacity would be 10 gigawatts, and demineralized water requirement would be 100 MLD. On the basis of the requirement, Deen Dayal Port Authority has already earmarked 26,000 acres of land for this purpose. And the present status is that we have identified some land and we have already floated, Deen Dayal Port has already floated tenders for auction of land for green hydrogen. So that is already, the process is already on. This is the preliminary study regarding 1 MMTPA of green ammonia facility. There are various studies, there are various assessments, but we have made this own assessment that for 1 MMTPA of ammonia or methanol, green hydrogen capacity would be around 0.2 MMTPA. So that would be required. Electrolyzer capacity for that amount of green hydrogen would range from 1.2 gigawatt to 1.8 gigawatt. That would depend on the technology of the electrolyzers. Some would be requiring less gigawatt energy, some would be requiring more. So accordingly, demineralized water required would be about 10 mld for the electrolyzers and 5 mld for other processes like cooling, ancillaries, all other things. So in all, for 1 MMTPA of ammonia, about 15 mld of water, desalinized water would be required. Accordingly, storage facility also, about 80,000 metric ton storage capacity would be required for 1 MMTPA of ammonia. That is considering storage of 1 month production. RE power requirement also would vary from 2.2 gigawatt to 6 gigawatt. It would depend on the which kind of power you are going to use. Hybrid power would require less gigawatts, wind and solar would be requiring more. Accordingly, land requirements also we have denoted. For land, there are 2-3 studies for how much land would be required for 1 MMT of green ammonia. The port has calculated that about 205 acres would be sufficient for production of 1 MMT of green ammonia. However, recently Ministry of MNRE, Ministry of Renewable Energy has floated a guideline. That guideline says that minimum 250 acre would be required for green ammonia, 1 MMTP of green ammonia. Our developers says that they would require about 350 MMTP of green ammonia for 1 MMTP production. So we have created 300 acre land parcels for auction for 1 MMTP of ammonia. Tuticorin port is at the most advanced stage in green hydrogen. They have already allotted land to ACME to set up 1 MMTP of green hydrogen. They have already allotted 10 acres of land also to MS Renew Power. And VOCPA is the first port also to handle green ammonia import successfully in September 23 only. In conclusion, I must say that ports provide a definite advantage. Ports provide a definite advantage for green hydrogen hubs. Their seawater is available for harnessing, for desalination. Renewable energy is also available. Tuticorin port is going for in a big bay for renewable energy. Our port also have a space for renewable energy. So ports would facilitate green hydrogen hubs. That would be an advantage, and we would be able to fulfill the vision of Honorable Prime Minister also to have a clean energy revolution at the ports. So I think our ports are the ports of possibilities which will lead India towards green hydrogen and sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta. Next on our list is Mr. Royal Hondas, who is the head of the Air Pollution Energy Efficiency of the International Maritime Organization. I request him to speak to us about the global initiatives for zero emission shipping.
Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, let me start by conveying warm regards from the IMO Secretary General, Mr. Kitak Lim, to the Government of India and particularly to the Ministry of Port, Shipping and Waterways, and congratulating you with this excellent presentation. It's a pleasure to be here and to be surrounded by the friends of the IMO and supporting the discussions that we will have in the decarbonization of the maritime industry. It was already mentioned in a number of presentations before, the climate challenge and the urgency to address climate change. And in that regard, IMO has adopted a new strategy in July of this year, outlining a net zero vision for the shipping industry to be achieved by 2050. The decision of the IMO was a landmark decision that was supported by all the governments of the IMO by full unanimity. And we would like to convey our deep gratitude to the Government of India for actively supporting the process within the IMO in the adoption of the IMO strategy. We know that the strategy has further work to be done, and we want to focus on further work and the development of the measures in the coming years ahead. In this sense, it's very important that other principles in the strategy, such as achieving a just and equitable transition and taking into account national differentiating circumstances, are the cornerstones of the further work of the IMO in developing measures for the future that will ensure that the shipping industry achieves a 2050 net zero target. IMO member states have agreed on an ambitious timeline for the adoption of measures, including the development of a fuel intensity target, as well as global emission carbon pricing mechanisms for the shipping industry. Work on these measures is ongoing, and we have started with a concrete process of assessing the impacts on states of the different proposals for such measures, the fuel intensity standards and a global emission pricing system, including paying particular attention to the inclusion of developing states in the future regulatory framework of the IMO. Developing a global level playing field for the shipping industry is the key objective of the IMO, and we want this to be inclusive and involving all countries and member states of the IMO. And this is what the trajectory that IMO member states have agreed upon in last July looks like, a very ambitious target. And urgency is required in order to meet this target. You can see on the slide what are the reduction milestones to be achieved in our journey towards net zero for the years 2030 and 2040 in a more ambitious scenario and another scenario defined in the IMO greenhouse gas strategy. Very important also is the fuel uptake target for 2030, which foresees 5% of the fuels and the technology used by the shipping industry worldwide to be renewable. This is a very ambitious target, and we have to work together with governments and the private sector in order to achieve this target. And it's a real pleasure to see so many initiatives here at the summit and just presented by my colleagues that will pave the way towards achieving this target for 2030 and beyond. Within the IMO, as I mentioned, we want to make sure that the transition to net zero shipping is just and equitable. And we already have a number of tools developed and implemented in the IMO to help governments around the world, particularly in the global south, in achieving and being part of this transition. Technical cooperation and transfer is one of the areas that the IMO wants to further develop, as also outlined in our 2023 strategy. IMO has already a resolution in place on promoting technical cooperation and technology transfer to support the energy efficiency of ship. And in the context of this technology, we look as the IMO from the Secretariat side, but also in cooperation between member states in supporting technical cooperation projects, pilots, and also how the future use of any carbon revenues generated on a global pricing mechanism can be used to support developing states in the global south with technical cooperation and transfer. IMO also has already adopted a resolution on promoting national action plans that focus particularly on bringing together the shipping industry with the port industry and the energy sector in defining national pilots and priorities to achieve net zero shipping worldwide. And in that sense, we do support also the development of maritime corridors, and it's a pleasure to see the commitment of the government of India together with other countries to develop such maritime corridors, as these are crucial for first movers in building the experience and ensuring fuel availability around the world. And to finish off, in support of the IMO greenhouse gas strategy, we already have implemented a number of projects, and we're very proud that the Government of India and the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways is a lead partner country in the IMO Green Voyage 2050 project. We've had a number of internal meetings with the Ministry and stakeholders last week, and we identified a number of projects for the years to come. This project has been extended to 2030, and in phase 2 of this project, the priority will be on alternative fuel and route-based and corridor actions, which the IMO is going to support the Government of India with. So we wish to convey an important message in terms of urgency in global cooperation to achieve the net zero target set by IMO governments in July of this year. Global cooperation is the key of moving forward and defining a global level playing field for the shipping industry. And we very much look forward to continue our work and the commitment of the Government of India in this regard to work both with the IMO and with the different countries around the world and here present on the podium in defining this pathway towards net zero shipping. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hondas. Let me now invite Mr. Ingvar Mathisen, who is the port director and the CEO of the Port of Oslo, to tell us how the green maritime clusters can help us move towards decarbonization. Mr. Mathisen.
Yes, thank you, dignitaries, dear fellow maritime colleagues. Let me see. Just going to go back to this slide. I'm here at the capacity of both being the port director, CEO of Port of Oslo, but also as the chairman of Ports of Norway, which is Norway's Ports Association. Norway is a small country in the world, just 4.5 million people, and Oslo, of course, is a small city in the world. But where we maybe punches beyond our weight is actually when it comes to the green transition. And that's why we at the Port of Oslo are working every day to fulfill this vision of ours, which is Port of Oslo, the world's most effective and environmentally friendly city near port. I'm just going to briefly put our objectives up here for you. So the city of Oslo, which we are a part of, we're going to cut emissions by 95% of greenhouse gases within 2030, and the goal for Port of Oslo is 85% in the same time span. And we see that Norway's climate goals, and for that matter IMO's, is far lower, but hopefully we can, as a small country, be a bit more agile and move ahead. And we are happy to collaborate with everyone. We are also very happy to be part of this exclusive list, the leading maritime cities of the world. And we are equally happy to say that the maritime experts from around the world are saying that Oslo is the one that is taking the lead in the green transition and transformation of the maritime industry, and also with the strongest capabilities and a best position for the digital transformation as a runner-up position after Singapore. This is factors why the city of Oslo and Port of Oslo plus Norway are able to take the lead on the green transformation of the global maritime industry. One, we are small, yes, but we also have a proud maritime heritage and industry, then also developing and transforming for the future. We have oil and gas, they provide income, and also, very importantly, technology for the green shift. And then we have our unique public procurement system and green tech funding from the government that bridge the gap between technologies and for its majority when it can be facilitated without any funding. And we also have very visionary companies and politicians to dare to look ahead and understand that we, by also taking the lead on this can also be a very good business proposition. And also another very important reason why we can move ahead is the green maritime clusters. I will show you a few of those. Port of Oslo spearheaded this national digital port infrastructure, which was funded by the Norwegian Maritime Authority. And basically, we looked at ways to improve the efficiency of the Norwegian shipping. We have some ports that was a part of it, but the main thing is that this is open source. This will be available for all the ports in Norway, and also as a model for others to emulate. Just I know the time is short, so I will be brief here, but basically it provides planning and analysis, and also look into the use of robots and autonomy. And we also have the port data mapping and data. There is this national authority also behind that. We have the customs, and I have also the Safe CNet. It's a single window where the ships and the ports and authorities all report in the same system, creating efficiency all around. And basically, this provides a lot of opportunities and also saving in time and Saving time is money. So basically for this project on a 10-year period, we look at saving 1 billion euros for the Norwegian ports. And this is a project that also several countries have been interested in, because it's kind of unique that a national port authority is taking the lead of this. Otherwise, big ports are developing this each and every one, instead of collaborate and make use of what's already there. This is a green shipping program. We had some workshops through IMO last week, and we get a question from from the Indian business party. Why would competitors participate in a program like this? And basically the mantra of green shipping is basically cooperate when you can and compete when you must. That is very important, because they are in for the long time, and they will see this long time proceeds and income by being ahead. Just going for landing here, green corridors to Europe. Cities of Oslo and Rotterdam signed an MOU in September, and this beautiful looking ship will buy fuel of hydrogen, and it will actually be built up at Mr. Nayer's Cochin shipyard. And it will provide a green corridor sooner than pretty much anywhere else. And also, when I come to, this is the Sustainable Development Goals for Port of Oslo. And we have one of those goals that is more important than anything else. And that's basically why I'm here. It is because cooperation to succeed is the way to do it. Because if we don't share our knowledge, they will take much longer to cut the emissions. That's why I'm also proud to say that the Norwegian Ports Association and also India Port Association have signed an MOU on the green technology and green shift. And under that, we are signed with Port of Oslo, with Mumbai Port Authority, and JMPTA will be signed in a few minutes, as soon as I'm pretty much done here. So with this, if anybody wants to contact me, here's my contact info. And with that, I just want to say thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Matheson. We have now 2 more speakers with us, and we are left with practically no time. So I'll request you, the following speakers, to be, of course, very focused in their intervention. Let me now invite Mr. Madhu Nair, who is the chairman and MD of the Cochin Shipyard, who will speak to us about the role of green technologies and alternative fuels for a long-term decarbonization vision. Mr. Nair.
Thank you. I'll try to be as brief as possible here. And the eminent panel here and the august gathering would appreciate that we are talking about a transition, and this transition is not just in the maritime space, it's coming from all walks of life. And this transition is driven by the need to have a sustainable future and rolled out with a digital world. I have 5 large themes when we are talking about adapting green and advanced new technologies into the maritime space. And I'll just try to touch upon each of those. The first one is we need to be appreciating the fact that one technology fits all kind of a situation is not going to work into the future. We have to be very clearly understanding that there are going to be multiple technologies, multiple fuels based on geographical realities and various use cases. So we would hear a lot of new things like batteries, hybrid technologies, ammonia, methanol, biofuel, LNG, and there could be this tendency to get confused. But let us be clear about one thing, it is going to be a mixed set of fuels. The second large theme is whether we like it or not, this transition is here to stay. And I repeat, whether we like it or not. There would be global requirements like the IMO requirements that will come in. There will be other requirements like the EU ETS, where if you want to work with Europe, you would be forced to do certain things. There would also be national commitments. So all of these regulations would make sure that we do this transition. Also, the markets will determine. The businesses here will very clearly understand that if you are not going green, your finance costs are going to go up. If you are not green, for example, if you are a steel maker and your processes are not green, you're probably going to lose markets. So both from the market side and from the finance side, you will have to turn green. The early movers, theme number 3, the early movers are going to face some difficulties. But as they say, it is the risk taker who reaps the benefit. So if you're not ready to take the risk, please be ready to stay away from the business also. So there are going to be difficulties, but all of these difficulties cannot be handled commercially. And today when policy makers, governments are looking at this, there would be a part which can be handled commercially by business. There would be a part which would have to be taken by the consumer. For example, if you're sipping a bottle of Coke, your bottle of Coke is going to be about 10 cents more costly. I think we can all afford that. We will have to take this. But a large part of this transition will have to be taken by the government, because at the end of the day, the benefits are not commercial. The benefits are economic in nature, and the country or the state will have to take this. And I just wanted to come back from our companies, my company, Cochin Shipyard Limited's experience. To put it very bluntly, I know there's a very august gathering, but I think let me drive it as blunt as possible. Enough of talking, let's do something. We keep on talking quite a lot, but whatever we can do, let's try to do this. My company, it's not a perfect world, but whatever is possible. The Cochin Water Metro project, we are developing the world's largest fleet of hybrid electric vessels here in India. It's not happening in the West, it's actually happening here in India. But from India, we are also participating. We have delivered 2 of the world's initial fully emission-free vessels for ASKO of Norway. Mr. Mathiasen just alluded to that, into the Norwegian green shipping cluster. We heard from the IMO representative, we are talking about collaboration. The SAMSKIP, which would be the world's first container, hydrogen fuel cell container vessels, are being built by my company. So what we are trying to do is, wherever it is possible, it's not perfect, but wherever it's possible, we are trying to move forward and create that belief. And the last part, theme number 5 is, we all would have to be part to create a large ecosystem, which would be suppliers, the logistics, storage, dispensation, training, skill development, and for each of these, probably we'll have to drive some pilot projects. So a leap of faith would be needed. If we can drive those pilot projects by a little bit leap of faith, I think we are in the right direction. As we move forward, the sense of direction is clear. We have to transit into green, whether we like it or not. That's the only sense of direction which we have. The earlier we get onto the bandwagon, I think it would be good for all of us, the entire businesses and for the governments. Thank you for your patient hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Nair. That was excellent. The last but not the least speaker today is Ms. Brigitte Huisbers, the DG of the Aviation and Maritime Affairs of the Dutch Ministry of Infrastructure, Water Management and the Government of the Netherlands. Ms. Huisberg.
Thank you so much. I will be very short. I won't use my slides. Just wrap up the most important things which were said today. If you know that my country, the Netherlands, is very, very small, it's 350 kilometers by 150 kilometers, and half of the country is below sea level. So it is not a question if we have to do something about climate change, it is a question of how are we going to do it. And also shipping has to take part of it and has to come into action very soon. The Netherlands' vision for a pathway to net zero is at 3 levels. First of all, the global level, and my colleague Roel Hoenders from IMO already mentioned the new greenhouse gas strategy which was set in July this year, so I won't go into details. Of course, as a member of the European Commission, we also have to apply European legislation, which is already there, and the Fit for 55 measures, which are emission trade system, set of norms, and making sure alternative fuels are available in all the ports. Well, we have to work that out. And the third level we are working on is on a national level. And I would like to go into more detail about our national level. First of all, we set a maritime master plan, and we have 220 million euros available to stimulate the development of clean ships by focusing on methanol, hydrogen, LNG with carbon capture storage. And in the short term, we will, together, the government and the private sector, make sure that there are 30 zero-emission ships. And we will focus on those types of ships which are very important for the Netherlands market. So that's offshore power, that's governmental ship, and also the Royal Navy. That's the inland navigation, of course, because within Europe, 50%, 5,000 ships are Dutch-flagged inland navigation ships. And of course, short sea shipping, coastal shipping. It was already mentioned, the green corridors, stimulating the role in spurring early adoption of renewable fuels and new sustainable technologies in short sea, and as well as longer routes. Therefore, the Netherlands signed the Clydebank Declaration during COP26 and developing these green corridors. And it was already mentioned by the colleague of the Port of Oslo, the green corridors set up by the Port of Rotterdam and Port of Oslo. Last month I signed an MOU with the UK to work out on green corridors between the Netherlands ports and the UK ports. We work together with Göteborg in Sweden and with Singapore. And another topic which is very important is the roadmap on sustainable shipping and fuels, because alternative fuels will be scarce at the moment. And all modes of transport are looking forward to hydrogen, to methanol, etc. So we are working out together with all the other modes of transport within our ministry a roadmap where it's very clear that certain types of alternative fuels, like biofuels in the first instance, but also hydrogen, are used for shipping and are used for civil aviation. Of course, the ports have to play an important role, and they are giving reductions on port fees for clean ships and make sure onshore power is available for ferries, for cruise ships, for container ships, inland navigation. So we are working very hard with them on that. And last but not least, I would like to mention the role of the shippers. My colleague Andreas Noordset mentioned the role of seafarers and lots of other parties within the maritime sector, but also the shippers, the big companies like Unilever, like Nike, like Heineken, for instance. They play an important role. If they demand that shipping is green as soon as possible, we can work it out. Let's make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heisbers. Thank you for your broad overview. With this, we have come to the end of the presentation by the speakers. We were supposed to have a session on questions and answers. Unfortunately, we have really run out of time, so I seek your indulgence. And I once again thank all the panelists for their excellent remarks and their, how they have enriched our insights into the process of decarbonization at the national and the global level. A number of initiatives have been pointed out, and we hope that the process will remain positive with the cooperation and the public and private partnerships that we hope to build. With this, let me hand over the session to the MC once again and for taking it forward.
Thank you so much for this enlightening session, sir. We are certain that the ideas that are arising out of this session go a long way. As a token of our appreciation to our esteemed speakers, may I request Mr. Mehta to present them with the mementos. Mr. Rajesh Kumar Sinha, Mr. Andrew Northset, Mr. Royal Hondas, Mr. Ingvar Matheson, Mr. Madhu Nair, Ms. Bridget C.M. Jibber. And Mr. R.R. Rashmi, our moderator himself. Once again, a big round of applause for our fantastic panelists over here as we thank them and they leave stage. And we move over to our next session. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, ma'am. Before you leave, may I request you all for a group photograph? Just step forward for a group photograph. So would you like to step forward for a group photograph, please?
Dear delegates, just a small announcement. You are all requested to take your delegate bags from the registration counter. You will also find there this brochure which has a QR code on the back of it. This QR code on scanning will give you the entire schedule for today and tomorrow, along with the details of which halls, which session it is being organized. Now I request all of you who are attending the next